Hi guys, happy Tuesday. Today I actually do want to keep it under 10 minutes, I promise. Today's post is entitled The Way I See It. And as we discuss what we talked about in class, you'll see exactly why I titled today's post that. You came in, and after you got your words of the week written down, which as always you can download right at the bottom of this post, just click on that little download button, it'll take you to another little tab, and you'll have the words of the week sheet right there for you. After you copied those words, I gave you this fire starter and it said, even though there are many evils in the world, there is still hope. Then on the next page, Sal says, even when everything seems fine and good, I worry that something will go wrong and change everything. That's on page 174 and 175 in the old book, 167 and 168 in the new version. Okay? I asked you which statement sounds more like something you would say and why, what might cause a person to believe or say the other statement, and then pick either Sal or Phoebe. I had you do that. How do these quotes relate or apply to that character's life? Well, through some really, really good discussion, we kind of crystallized everything into really one meaningful statement about life. And we're seeing this come up a lot lately, so we might even say that this is a major theme, and it might even be one of the main ideas or the main idea of the entire story. And so we locked onto it because we're good readers and we've been noticing things and we've been recording things. We said that our expectations seem to set the standard for how our actions actually go. What we set ourselves up for is what tends to happen. If I have a high expectation, or if I have a positive expectation, chances are good I'm going to reach that. But if I have a low expectation, a negative expectation, I'm kind of claiming that, as I told you about my middle school phys ed teacher, I'm kind of claiming that for myself as my fate. And it doesn't have to be that way. We can set our expectations higher. Just like that student from last year who improved that many grade levels in both ELA and math because she just said, no, I'm going to do this. I expect that I'm going to do this. We also had that little chat about how, we can prepare for the worst, but don't assume the worst and don't expect the worst, otherwise it's going to happen. See, we fulfill, it's called a self-fulfilling prophecy. We predict and expect what's going to happen, and then because our mind is there, we wind up living it out. Important things to remember, again, from the life of these characters that aren't actually real, but we connect to them and we can learn through them as though they are real, and they become real to us through our experiences with them. A couple things I want to talk about. In chapter 32, I just want to make a mention of this. It's not a huge thing in the plot, and it's not a huge thing in themes, but it's a small conflict that gets called back from Graham and Gramps. Graham kept that love letter under her mattress from the Eggman that she ran away with for a couple of days. She kept it so that Gramps would find it. And she said, you never wrote me a love letter. It's the only love letter anyone ever wrote me, and it wasn't you, my husband. And he said, well, heck, you never told me you wanted one. Well, should she have had to tell him? And guys, let me just tell you a life lesson right now. It's always a good thing to say it whether she asks for it or not. Just a little personal advice. And one thing that Tara always says to me, hi baby if you're watching, what she always says to me is, I don't want to have to ask you to do chores. Because I'm always willing to do chores around the house, I'm always willing to do this and that. Chances are good that I'm running to a rehearsal, I'm running to another job or whatever. But if she asks me to do something, I'm going to do it. She would always prefer, though, that I just see that something needs to be done and I do it. I don't think that way. But when I do think that way, good things. It's always good things. Just a little word of advice. Guys, if there's somebody who's special to you, tell them. Make it clear to them, because you never know if they even know or not. You gotta share your emotions. You gotta share your feelings. You gotta talk to people. Communication is a lost art. We need to work on it. Okay, so that was that. Moving forward to something a little bit more interesting. You'll see the picture that I posted down below this video of the face-vase illusion. And it brought up a very interesting discussion to see this face-vase illusion, because two people can look at the same thing and see something completely different, can't they? I think that's one of the beautiful things about life and about English and about the language and about poetry a lot of the time, is that two people can read or look at or see or experience the same thing and have two completely different reactions, two completely different understandings, and the fact that we're able to communicate that is what makes life very beautiful. My wife and I have two very different ways of thinking, and part of what fascinates me so much when I talk to her is that she will arrive at a similar conclusion that I do from a whole bunch of stuff, and the way we got there was so completely different that we can have a really intelligent, awesome conversation about how we arrived at the same point because it was so different. That's really cool about ELA, because no one can ever tell you you're wrong if you have an opinion and you can support it. That's awesome. I thought I'd mention that because oftentimes we feel like, oh, my opinion's stupid, my opinion doesn't matter, I'm dumb, I can't do... Yes, you can. You look at something and you see something, or you feel something, you experience something, own that. That's yours. And no one can take it away from you. And if somebody asks you to prove it, you can. You have the evidence right there as long as you've been paying attention to what's been going on. That's a really, really cool thing. And it's very interesting to think about people's problems that way as well, especially in this book, conflicts. Because one person might say, I got a conflict with this person because they're blah, 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 blah. And the person would say, well, hey, I didn't even know there was a conflict. And so when they came at me like this, Again, communication is at the core of really having a productive and quality life. And your expectations are part of that. If you're always expecting the worst, gosh, maybe you kind of live that into being by expecting the worst of somebody else who maybe just wasn't even thinking the way you thought they were. I see it all the time. Did you see what she did to me in the hallway? She didn't say hi to me. I waved her and she didn't even say hi to me. She just walked right away. Well, maybe she wasn't snubbing you. Maybe she didn't see you. I don't know. But this is why it's important to talk, is because two people can see things entirely differently. And miscommunication can lead to not connecting. It's important to communicate. One last thing. I want to get back to this paragraph that came about when we found out that Mrs. Cadaver lost her husband and her mother lost her sight as a result of a drunk driver who crashed into them. And it was even worse when we experienced this because she was the nurse at the emergency room and couldn't save her husband and couldn't save her mom's eyesight. What a whole bunch of stuff to carry around. And Sal says, I started wondering. She was walking in her moccasins. She said, I felt as if I was walking in Mrs. Cadaver's moccasins. That's how much my own heart was pumping and my own hands were sweating. I started wondering if the birds of sadness had built their nest in Mrs. Cadaver's hair afterwards, and if so, how she got rid of them. Her husband dying and her mother being blinded were events that would matter in the course of a lifetime. I saw everyone else going on with their own agendas while Mrs. Cadaver was frantically trying to keep her husband and her mother alive. Did she regret anything? Did she know the worth of the water before the well was dry? All those messages had invaded my brain and affected the way I looked at things. You see, the way we look and the way we see things are really up to us. And the more we learn, the more we experience, the more the way we see things changes. Be open to those changes, because that's part of what helps us grow as people and what helps us notice things in other people and can learn and connect to other people's situations, even fictional situations, and learn things and experience things and move forward. Guys, this is amazing stuff. Don't forget that your homework is to read through the end of chapter 35. Some other important information gets passed on there. I'm so proud of you guys for all of the really quality reading you're doing, and especially if you're coming here and watching these videos. You are committed, man, to learning more and to getting better, and I really appreciate that. Take it easy, guys. See you tomorrow.